Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this panel session hosted by Kaz Energy Association as a part of the ASEAN International Forum 2025. At the beginning, I'd like just to give you some introductory notes. You know that we are now at a pivotal juncture in the global energy landscape. And the sector is undergoing rapid and profound transformation, shaped by growing demand from one side and urgent push for decarbonization and a shifting geopolitical landscape. This transition is particularly evident in emerging markets, where energy needs are rising alongside industrial growth, urbanization and population increases. In this environment, energy security is no longer solely about the uninterrupted flow of energy. It now requires balancing a delicate equation of reliability, affordability and environmental responsibility. The stakes are higher. Governments and companies are being called upon to act faster and more decisively while navigating a complex web of risks, which is supply chain disruptions, volatile markets, rising capital costs and increasing physical and cyber threats to infrastructure. Yes, this moment is also full of opportunity, of course, and like a digital innovation and distributed energy technologies and regional cooperation. All these things are opening as a new path to resilience. The challenge is not whether to act, but how to act. It's wisely, it's making decisions that support long-term security while accelerating the energy transition. This is precisely the focus of today's discussion. We're honored to be joined by a distinguished panel of leaders from government, international institutions and the private sector, all of whom bring valuable insights of what it takes to ensure energy security in a complex and rapidly evolving world. And now let me introduce, and of course for me it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speakers. We start from Mr. Alibek Jamaov. He's a Vice Minister of Energy. We welcome Mr. Peter Larden, Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil Corporation. Mr. Ashat Hassanov, Chairman of the Management Board of Kazmunagas. Our old friends and partner, Mr. Matthew Segers. He is the Vice President of S&P Global. Mr. Gurbuz Gunul, Director of Country Engagement and Partnership of International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. And Mr. Dario Legutti, the Director of Sustainable Energy Division of United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And let me start now. I'm honored to start and giving the floor to Mr. Alibek Jamaov. But before that, I'd like to make some deliver the initial thoughts. And at the heart of today's theme, you know that it's a balancing transition and stability, which lies one key enabler is investment. And I'd like to start the first question from Mr. Jamaov. And Mr. Jamaov, with that in mind, I mean, so talking about the balance, energy, so challenges, geopolitical, technological challenges, I'd like to ask you, what measures is Kazakhstan taking to attract investment and manage risks related to long-term project timeline in Kazakhstan's energy sector? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Akchulakov. Good evening, dear participants of the panel session. On behalf of the Ministry of Energy, I am pleased to welcome you today. The topic of the energy security takes on the central role of the global agenda, where the world community faces major challenges, maintaining the stable economic growth, technological development, stability of energy supplies, and decarbonization of the industry. The Kazakhstan, the oil and gas sector is one of the main drivers of the sustainable economic development, accounting for about a quarter of the country's GDP. To increase the volume of the foreign investment in the energy sector, the Ministry is actively working to improve the regulatory framework and implement infrastructure projects in 2024, 16 projects worth more than 4 billion tenge. The government has introduced the improved model contract, which provides the significant packages of regulatory and fiscal preferences for geological exploration and further development of depleting fields. The mechanism will additionally attract up to 200 billion tenge annually and increase oil production at mature fields to 60 million tons by 2045. Kazakhstan is one of the largest oil producers in the world due to the favorable investment climate, including long-term contracts, attractive tax regimes, and legal frameworks have attracted major transnational corporations and to enter the market to participate in large projects such as Tengiz, Kashagan, and Karachaganak. Overall oil production volume for 2024 amounted 47.7 million tons. By 2030, we plan to increase the oil production over 100 million tons per year. For this, the government is taking necessary measures to develop new fields and diversify transportation routes. In this regard, the CPC pipeline is the most efficient route for exporting Kazakh oil. By the end of the 2024, 55 million tons of Kazakh oil were transported via CPC pipeline, and 57 millions is planned for next year. We are considering the development of the oil and gas infrastructure and diversification of transport routes. For instance, we have reached agreement with Azerbaijan side on the transportation of Kazakh oil via Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan route, the amount of 1.5 million tons per year, with a possible further increase to 2.2 million tenge per year. Kazakhstan is also working on diversify the oil transportation routes by the following directions: Trans-Caspian International Transport Route in the Middle Corridor, Atrau-Samara pipeline through Druzhba to direction of the Schwedt oil refinery in Germany. One of the priorities for the development of the country's oil and gas industry is the petrochemical industry. Currently, the number of large-scale projects are being implemented in Kazakhstan. In 2022, the petrochemical plants for the production of the polypropylene with a capacity of 5,000 tons per year was launched. Also, the project for the production of polyethylene with a capacity of 1.2 million tons per year is being implemented, which is the largest, which is the stage of the early construction works is planned for the launch in 2029. Given the global trends towards achieving carbon neutrality, it remains important today to develop both traditional and alternative and renewable energy in accordance with the regional, national conditions, industrial policy, and the social economic factors. Given the need to maintain the energy security, reliable energy supply, as well as the annual growth in electricity consumption by 2035, we plan to implement projects to modernize existing and introduce new capacities of about 26 gigawatt, including 25% of renewable energy sources. We pay attention to the development of the renewable energy sector. As a part of the Paris Agreement, Kazakhstan has set ambitious goal to achieve net zero by 2060. In this regard, we plan to increase the share of renewable energy sources by national energy balance by 2030 and 15%, and by 2050 by 50%. In accordance to achieve the set goal by 2050, the Ministry will ensure holding the annual auctions as well as implementation of the large-scale projects with strategic investors. Nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is gaining importance as a reliable green energy source capable to ensure the stable power supply. Kazakhstan has joined international declaration on tripling the use of nuclear energy by 2050 at COP29. Our country has all necessary conditions for development in nuclear energy, ranking the first in the world in terms of the volume of the uranium mining. Following the result of the Republic referendum on October 6, 2024, a positive decision was made on the construction of the nuclear power plant in Kazakhstan. This result emphasized the importance of the relevance in nuclear energy in Kazakhstan for ensuring energy security. In addition, by decree of the President of Republic of Kazakhstan, the Agency of Republic of Kazakhstan on Atomic Energy was established, aimed at implementing the task set by Head of State in the nuclear industry. At the 28th Conference on the Parties, the Head of the State, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, announced the accession of the Republic of Kazakhstan to the Global Methane Pledge. This confirms our country's commitment to the course of the consistent energy transition and gradual decarbonization of the economy. The ban on the gas flaring established by law on subsoil and subsoil use demonstrate the reduction of gas flaring by more than 20%. In 2006, 3.1 billion cubic meter of gas was flared, while the producing was 27 billion. By the end of the 2024, the volume of the gas flared was only 300 million, while producing 59 billion. This approach not only reduces methane emissions, but also allows us for more efficient use of valuable energy resources. Another important initiative in the creation of the Just Energy Transition Platform of Kazakhstan, our President announced an initiative at the 27th session of the UN General Assembly. The goal of the platform is to attract climate finance and investment to support the socially inclusive transition to a low-carbon economy. We are currently developing the institutional structure, governance model, and investment of the platform. More than 45 stakeholders are involved in this process, including ministries, financial institutions, academia, and international partners. Dear colleagues, Kazakhstan remains committed to continue maintaining a favorable investment climate in the energy sector, which continues to attract sustainable foreign capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jamalov, and for your very valuable and thoughtful remarks. And almost everyone in this room we know about how it's quite challenging when you are from first part is to be the landlocked. And at the beginning you mentioned about our ability to securely and sustainably deliver our energy source to the global markets. And that is also you mentioned about all our coming future energy policy and how we should implement so many projects like in petrochemistry, and also you touched this nuclear power station project, which is one of the key, going to be one of the key for the energy sustainable policy in Kazakhstan. And thank you. I think it's tone of this dispute is given now, and we will just follow and look at from the other angles of views around the globe. And now I'd like to turn to ExxonMobil Corporation. And for me, and not only for me, but for all Kazakhstan, it's one of the key global partner. And for the last more than 3 decades, and hopefully in last 30 years, I'm working in this industry. All these 30 years, I'm working jointly with companies like ExxonMobil. Even before it was just a Mobil, I know, but now it's ExxonMobil. It's a more huge company, and it's one of the key partners. And you are our strategic partner in Tengiz fields and Karachaganak. It's a huge, giant fields in the world scale. And also I know that ExxonMobil remains as a company which is in the heart of discussions on how to meet rising energy demand and while advancing low carbon solution. And from that perspective, I'd like to raise a question, Mr. Lardan. As we look forward ahead to 2050, what does ExxonMobil envision the global energy landscape, and what role do you see for Kazakhstan in this future? Yes.
Well, thank you for the question, and I'll start by saying it's an absolute pleasure to be part of this forum and certainly part of the panel here today with such esteemed colleagues. ExxonMobil has proudly operated in Kazakhstan, as you've said, for 30 years, and we have a long and proud history across the world as well. And as we look forward, certainly for the next half a century out through 2050, we see the world quite differently than it is today. We anticipate that the global population will rise to about 10 billion people, and coupled with the improved standards of living that we expect across the world as well, particularly in developing countries, we'd anticipate that about a 15% increase in energy demand is required or will be required to meet society's needs. And while renewables will grow rapidly through that period to support the increased demand, oil and gas will continue to play a really important role. And by 2050, we estimate around about 50% of the world's energy mix will be oil and gas, which is really important for a country like Kazakhstan. Of course, oil and gas is still going to be critical to industrial processes, to manufacturing, to heavy transportation industries. And when we think about oil specifically, we would expect that across that same time frame, oil will plateau around about 100 million barrels a day, despite the fact that renewable energy sources and lower carbon energy sources will start to grow. And for Kazakhstan in particular, with a really strategic location in between Europe and Asia being much of the anticipated growth, there's a real opportunity here for Kazakhstan to play a major role, of course. Our experience has been, as the Vice Minister said, it's not just about having world-class resources, you also have to have a really attractive and a really well-understood investment climate. And I think that is the key as we think forward here about the global energy demand and the role that each country can play in that regard. And our experience says that when you have an attractive investment climate, which is underpinned by sound fiscals, regulatory certainty and a robust legal framework, they are the key ingredients to attract the type of investments and the type of decisions from foreign investors that underpin multi-decade, multi-billion-dollar investments. So for us, that's what we're looking for as we scan the global landscape to support global energy growth, and I appreciate your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Larden, and we hope that not just as a history for the last 3 decades, and we're looking forward. That's why we mentioned about 2050, which is, it looks like quite long, but we know that time is ticking so faster, and it's just tomorrow. And all key decisions on investment should be executed, at least a decision should be executed today. And in Kazakhstan, there are a lot of opportunities, like Mr. Jamaov mentioned before, from resources point of view. And Kazakhstan, from this point of view, is still rich of all resources, including hydrocarbons as well. And, but you know that we're challenging and experiencing the challenge of low carbon, green, but we're talking about balancing transition and stability. So stability means we need to find the proper balance. And from that point of view, I hope that next era of, how we say, next step in hydrocarbon market development in Kazakhstan, it's still in the coming future. And we hope that ExxonMobil, as our key and strategic partner, will continuously be presented here in Kazakhstan. And I hope we will execute a number of the projects in the future by joint effort. Thank you again. And now I would like to turn to someone who represents a national perspective on energy security. I know Mr. Khasenov, and he's now Chief Executive Officer of Kazmunagas National Oil and Gas Company. Before, he was Vice Minister of Energy as well, was dealing with a number of projects in oil and gas. And he was also been working in Kizilorda region as engineer. He knows very well. But KMG is one of the unique company, which is a national oil and gas company, and should make some inputs into the policy of energy in Kazakhstan. But from another side, he also one is who should execute as well. This everything he said as a policy key issues. And now, so that is an interesting situation for him. And we mentioned about this balancing transition and all challenges, you know, even the better than me. And that's why I'd like just to raise a question for you about this, regarding this. The question is, could you share with us how Kazmunagas is setting its long-term strategy in the context of energy transition? What priorities have been identified to achieve a balance between traditional production and the development of low-carbon projects?
Thank you. Thank you for question, Walter Rauch. As you mentioned, KMG has a two-hat. I always mentioned about this point for my partners, for our partners. One hat is the company, as a company. The second is as a government representative. And of course, for us, today I think we see, and we're glad to see here our partners from ENI, from Shell, from Exxon, and another our major forged partners. For us, I think some common view is a lot today is when we are talking about balancing between this transition and stability is a very hard very hard question. We have a lot of challenges, and as a KMG, as a national oil company, oil and gas company, of course, we have our strategy. Today our focus is first is geological exploration. Mr. Jamalov mentioned government helps, reforms, it's called improved model contract, and we are proud that a lot of companies with us use this improved model contract and implement new geological projects. This is our focus, and KMG today is implementing actually the numbers, a lot of numbers, geological projects, and we are proud on this. And the government, thanks for Ministry of Energy for realizing these laws change in subsoil codex. The second priority is, of course, for us is petrochemical. Petrochemical is today, you know very well, all of you, that we are today realizing the big projects in the industry, polyethylene. We will discussing on carbamide, we will discussing on polyethylene terephthalate, and all of these projects for us, of course, very important. And for realizing this very ambitious to direct, which is very riskful anyway, for us very important to support from current oil production, yes, from this our current oil production with our partners. It's very important to support and to evolve, to develop these two direct, as I mentioned, geological and our focus and petrochemical. So again, it's only one way. I believe it's find a balance between sustainable oil production today and with this ecology agenda. And for us as a KMG, of course, we will continue our strong to achieve our strong view, to increase our reserves, of course, and realize petrochemical industry to help our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's quite clear about your program, and we wish you success in executing all initiatives you mentioned here, yes, which is not easy, of course.
Mr. Akchulakov, can I put some
Thank you.
comments?
Yes,
Basically,
yes.
Mr. Khasenov is a very kind person. Basically, he developed that changes in the subsoil codex.
I think the success in the execution, all the ideas you mentioned, both of you, that is for the benefit of the country. I think it's regardless who will raise these questions, but it's a more mixed matter who will successfully execute that. And what I heard today, and which is good for me, I mean, and for all representatives of oil and gas sector, that we are still thinking and trying to execute a number of the projects in geological survey and exploration, which is we need to refresh our resources, even we are in transition period. But it's always, and we're talking about that always is better to have something in your pocket instead of just to think about this deep nights. So this is a really good message. Thank you. Next, I'd like to turn to Mr. Seges. Here is written that, okay, Mr. Seges from S&P Global, but we know each other almost, I forgot how many years. And Mr. Seges, we start working jointly on energy reports for Kazakhstan many years ago. That time it was IHS company. And I'd like to present Mr. Seges like if he's a someone who sometimes knows even better about all the things in your house, better than the owner. So because we went through the number of the energy reports, and you've been deeply dive into the policy, all statistics, projects, futures, and that's why I think your thoughts is going to be really important and valuable for all of us. And it looks like I'm asking about my destiny from my guest. Yes. But he's no guest anymore. He's a member of the family of energy people here in Kazakhstan. That's why my question, Mr. Seges, to you. In your view, how do domestic energy prices in Kazakhstan affect the investment appeal of its oil and gas sector? I know that is not an easy question, but that's the question we may ask not from someone who is not living here. Yeah, so particularly amid a broader global investment slowdown, how crucial is government pricing policies striking the right balance between affordability and long-term energy security? Thank you.
I thought we agreed I wasn't going to get any hard questions. But
before that, a week ago, I was sitting just opposite. He was asking me about the question. Now it's my turn. Yeah, to raise the
anyway,
question.
I do want to say that I am a guest here. I want to thank Kazakhstan hospitality greatly. I am feeling very much like an honored guest today, and so thank you very much. It's always an honor to be here, but today in particular, it's been absolutely great. Some of the thoughts that I have been shared before with everybody, but let me just start with the question of investment. Globally speaking, investment is really what drives economic development. We all know that. So the result is we spend a lot of time thinking about it, mobilizing it, attracting it, and accumulating it, because ultimately what is, raise the lives of our citizens. That's kind of why we do it. And so when I look at investment in Kazakhstan, I see two trends. One seems very worrying, and the other one seems very positive, and I don't know which one will win out. On the worrying side, upstream investment in fixed capital has dropped from a peak of $12.8 billion in 2019 to $4.8 billion last year. I can almost hear the air going out of the room. The share of upstream investment has dropped from about 49% in Kazakhstan to about 29%. That would be very worrying. Is the era of big oil over in Kazakhstan or not? Can Kazakhstan attract new upstream investments to basically lift this again? This is kind of the question that we've been looking at here overall. But on the same side, always with these things, there's two sides of the same coin. As we look at the other side of the coin, we see a couple of encouraging signs. One is that investment in electric power, which we'll get to a little bit later on, has bounced and risen a little bit. It's now running at about $2.1, $2.2 billion a year, which is not bad, but at the same time, I think most of us would say that's kind of too little for the size of the thing, but nonetheless, it's gone up. And the other thing is that when you look at what's happened to overall investment in the economy, it's been rising overall. Total fixed capital investment last year was $41 billion. It's been clipping along since the pandemic at almost double digits when you measure it in tenge. And so the question is, has Kazakhstan matured? Is Kazakhstan making a change from resource extraction to deeper processing? I think that, almost everyone that I heard up here was talking about value chains, petrochemicals, diversification. So like I said, there's two trends here. And clearly, when you think about oil and the upstream side, that's basically driven by what's happening in the international market, oil market. But when we come back to some of these other sectors that really affect the population, like for example, here in Kazakhstan, it's pricing inside the country for electric power, for gas and so forth. And this is also what really hits the level of the population. And so you do need to basically raise prices to generate the capital, to accumulate the capital, to basically lift citizens, but at the same time you've got to be careful to not go beyond what their affordability is. So it's a very difficult line to walk, difficult line to do, but that's what you're called to do as leaders. This is what it's all about. No one said this would be easy. Look at my first line. Accumulating, attracting, building. It all sounds very easy, but it's actually pretty hard overall. So I don't want to be too negative, but again, it's something that Kazakhstan, I think, has managed very well for the past 30 years, and I'm expecting Kazakhstan to do pretty well for the next 20. There's a lot of excellent population, education, intellectual capital here that can be drawn upon. This is not Kazakhstan of 30 years ago. It's moved on, and again, I congratulate everyone here for what has happened, the transformation of this country over the past 30 years.
Thank you, Mr. Segas. And it seems like we have a future. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Because
I'll be honest with you. There's a couple of neighbors in the area that they wish they had your future.
thanks, thank you. Because we're talking about transition, and for me it's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Gonul. You know that Central Asia is still heavily dependent on fossil fuels, but it holds enormous untapped potential for renewables. And if I'm not wrong, by one of the latest research done by United Nations departments, only in wind power, the future or our opportunity and source can almost equal to 2 trillion kilowatts hour of renewable energy only from the wind. That is a potential source of Kazakhstan. And IRENA's initiatives in the region are becoming increasingly visible now. And you know that Kazakhstan following and executing our obligation under Paris Agreement, and you know that our initial obligation was 3%, now we are almost 6%, we're exceeding, and we would like to reach 15% of renewables in our energy balance by 2030. But anyway, may I ask you the question, what role do you think APRECA initiative plays in promoting the energy transition in Central Asia, taking into account all existing and given facts?
Thank you very much. It's really a great pleasure to be part of this forum, and many thanks to the Ministry as well as KazEnerji for having IRENA both in the forum but also in this specific session. In fact, IRENA has been very present in the region since the early days of IRENA. IRENA is a relatively young organization, but since the early days we have been present in the region supporting the ambitions with technical assistance capacity building. But now this ambition is rising in the region in terms of renewables and energy transition. And we thought that there's a need for stronger cooperation framework with the countries, with the region, and that's how we have came up with this new initiative, APRECA, which stands for Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Central Asia. In fact, with this partnership, what we are trying to do, 3 things. One is how we can accelerate deployment of renewables, obviously. And the second part is how we can promote interconnectivity, which will lead to stronger renewable-based electricity trade within the region, but outside of the region also. And the third component is renewables and energy transition always linked to development. That's why how we can maximize socioeconomic benefits coming from energy transition to the region, with the energy transition accelerated in the region. I would like to highlight 4 dimensions of APRECA. One is infrastructure. Because at IRENA we believe that main stumbling block for accelerated energy transition based on renewables is the lack of infrastructure. And the grids comes first. And we see this challenge also in the region. We see ambitions are rising. Uzbekistan, there's a solar boom in Uzbekistan with already 11 solar plants online, and they have ambition to achieve more than 50% by 2030. We have heard Kazakhstan, I think they have also ambitious plans, but is the grid keeping up with that? I mean, there has been a strong deployment in Uzbekistan, for instance. Are there enough capacity in the grid, or is grids are ready to accommodate those, especially intermittent power, and still operate securely? It needs, in many countries, expansion, modernization, digitalization, and that is how we have identified the first activity to work with the countries of the region and how we can do a better planning and still having large sums of renewables coming in online, but also grids and infrastructure operates securely. This is the first dimension that I want to highlight. The second dimension is, obviously, we need to have necessary regulatory and policy frameworks. Strong policies, not complicated, easily implementable, but which will also create a conducive environment for investments, not only renewables, but energy efficiency, but also for the development of critical minerals, also for development of green hydrogen that I'm going to mention. So it's a kind of a broader framework of policies and market design required in order to accelerate it. Third dimension is definitely how we can create local value, how we can stimulate economic activities and green industrialization around energy transition. I mean, there is a lot of talk about the supply chains when we talk about renewables and energy transition and the risk associated with it. Obviously, it is about how we can create the right manufacturing capacities, but also how to we can make available access to critical minerals. When we talk about critical minerals, the region is rich. And they have, I have a list of it, I mean, a long list of minerals available in the region. Many of them available in Kazakhstan, but it requires infrastructure investments. It requires, especially on the transportation side and also on processing side, it requires investment. There is an opportunity for green hydrogen. The countries can produce cheap renewables, renewables at a very low cost, which is an important ingredient of lowering the cost of green hydrogen. And the countries can become really an important hub for green hydrogen. We have recently done a study, especially how green hydrogen can be integrated into industry decarbonization in Central Asia and Caucasus. We have looked into several dimensions of it. Obviously, there are certain challenges, like electricity tariffs, I think it was mentioned, aging infrastructure, etc. But I think the countries are starting to develop their own national plans. Maybe some pilot projects may come up. That discussion is already started and can take the region forward in green hydrogen development. And the last point is, obviously, everything comes or boils down to the fact that whether investments are taking place or not. So how we can stimulate investments, how we can bring private sector, especially certain countries in the region in Central Asia, more strongly into the renewable energy sector, how we can facilitate access to affordable finance. And IRENA is not an implementing organization. We don't provide funding for investment, but our role is more how we can develop strong pipeline of projects and pitch them to financial institutions. We have a platform, accelerated energy transition accelerated financing platform, where we brought together 14 financial institutions, multilaterals, bilaterals, providing different products, equity support, loans, insurance, etc. And they have already committed more than $4 billion to finance projects globally, including in Central Asia. We have already facilitated a 900 megawatt project in Uzbekistan, and we are very much looking forward to expanding the support to additional projects in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Gonul, for this good, and you highlighted the importance of regional cooperation and about existing situation in renewable energy in Kazakhstan. And I'd like to inform that just yesterday it was another auction for renewables in Kazakhstan. And the price for 1 kilowatt hour, the winner takes it 11.5 tenge, which is significantly less if we will compare at the beginning of this way. I do remember it was really, really expensive before. But now it's getting more and more cheaper. I think it's one of the reasons of that is the technology. And we're also expecting another question we raised before at the beginning, is if renewables may provide for the countries like Kazakhstan heating power as well. So that is still open question, and we hope that in coming future technology will reach this level. But I'd like to raise another question. We talk about the regional, and now I'd like to raise a forward-looking question tied to the global ambitions. And in United Arab Emirates, consensus at COP28 marked a historical commitment to tripling renewables and doubling energy efficiency by 2030. How can Central Asia countries set and fulfill more ambitious NDCs in line with that vision and IRENA's 1.5 degree scenario?
Thank you. Let me start with what you have said about the declining costs, because as you rightly said, Central Asia has vast resources, potential for renewables, and cost is not an issue anymore. And the numbers speak for themselves. Last year, we have seen 585 gigawatt of renewables deployed, and this constitutes 93% of electricity installed globally in 1 year. From 86% previous year, and this year 93%. And when we look at the costs, 80% of renewables installed, they are cheaper than fossil fuel alternatives. When we look at the solar, on average, they are half price of fossil fuel alternatives. So the costs are really significantly declined, and the deployment is much faster. And the deployment is much faster because not only because of the convenient investment environment, but because of the practicality that renewable energy investments, they take place much faster than alternative options. It's a matter of months to install a solar or wind power plant, compared to 5 to 20 years easily between fossil fuel or nuclear options. So it's a kind of speed matters. Especially if you are serious about the climate goals, speed matters. This year is an opportunity to raise ambition. Especially you have mentioned the climate goals. In that context, this year countries are expected to provide their updated NDCs until COP30, which will take place in Brazil towards the end of the year. And this year we are working with a number of countries, including Kyrgyzstan in the region, and how we can help them to raise their ambition in their NDCs, and then which can be translated into also stronger action in the country itself. There are sometimes mismatches between what they set as goals at the national level versus at the international level. We are also trying to align them. But also we are trying to know how this can be achieved in a more stronger way. For instance, in Kyrgyzstan, we are kind of trying to work with them to create some incentive mechanisms to how to bring more strongly private sector into renewable energy investments. Obviously, the important part is when we set these ambitions, and then how we can have a strong planning framework in the country, and reliable and easily updatable. And we have developed this new coalition, global coalition for energy planning, to help countries to move from planning or translate those strong, robust planning framework into investments and finance framework. And we have developed that partnership with Brazil, and hopefully we're looking forward to having other countries also on board with this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gunul. And just assuming all the thoughts you delivered today, I hope that we have a very prosperous future, not only in oil and gas, and also in renewables. Regionally, globally, and all these good trends, and Kazakhstan will also be the part of this trends on renewables as well, on proper balancing case. Thank you. And now let me turn to the multilateral perspective. Now we have Mr. Leguti with us, and we know that Mr. Leguti, your work at the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe places you at the forefront of regional energy cooperation, standardization and system-wide approaches. Based on recent UNSC research, what strategies do you see as the most effective today in strengthening energy security, particularly in balancing reliability, affordability and environmental sustainability? What practical tools and mechanisms, including digitalization, resource management and regional integration, would you recommend to help countries implement such a strategy? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And it's great to be back at the Astana International Forum. And I think the previous speakers mentioned some of the ingredients of what will be an answer to your question. Certainly, I think there are a number of countries with the crisis that happened all over the world. A number of countries thought that energy security means energy independence, energy autonomy. Well, we don't believe in that, and that for a number of reasons. We are supporting the fact that energy interdependence and whether it's connectivity, electric, we already talked about the role of the grids, but as well trading energy, whether it's molecules or fuels or electrons, is something that enhances all countries' energy resilience. And this is, I think, I want to give a slightly different perspective about the issue between, the trilemma in the energy space, one between affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And it's actually the concept of energy resiliency. I mean, in our view, the three components are part of what is a resilient energy system needs to be. We have seen that across the world, not just in emerging markets, but you've seen what happened recently as well in Western Europe. All of these three issues need to be looked at very closely. And by looking at that and the trade-off that you have between these three issues, this is how you build a resilient energy system. Resilient energy systems, coming back to your question, it is enhanced by energy collaboration, energy cooperation between countries, between neighboring countries. That's easy, but as well further up. And so therefore, we're working as well on supporting Central Asia to become again, or actually to become a real energy market, a regional energy market, open to the other markets. Central Asia is in between Europe and Asia, and has in the South Asia, which is a huge market, and therefore has plenty of opportunities of becoming a powerhouse, particularly Kazakhstan within Central Asia, to become an energy powerhouse for the rest of the neighboring countries around that. So energy connectivity is one of the elements. The second one, which we should not forget, is about energy efficiency, in particular energy intensity. This region remains one of the most energy intense across the world. Number of countries here are only slightly less energy intensive than Middle Eastern countries, oil producing in Middle Eastern countries. And this is an energy, if you want a more secure energy, this is as well the energy that you don't consume. And therefore, if you need less energy, you become as well automatically more secure in your energy profile. And therefore, that's a second aspect. You mentioned digitalization. This plays a great role, particularly in stabilizing grids, in updating these grids, as Gurbul mentioned before, but not only, having a diversified mix of energy sources. I wish to reassure Matthew and as well our Kazakh friends that Kazakhstan has not only a great future in oil and gas, but in renewable energy too. And actually, the future of Kazakhstan is in a mix of energy sources, after as well the choice that they have made of embracing nuclear energy. And therefore, having a diversified portfolio of energy sources is another aspect that enhances energy security, affordability, and reliability at the same time, particularly as we are facing climate change. Let's not forget that climate change is fundamentally an uncertainty, an uncertain variable. We don't know how it really will evolve over the years. We don't know what will be the impact on our infrastructure, on our power generation capacity 10 to 15 years down the road. When we do an investment in a power infrastructure, we're looking at nuclear energy 50 to 70 years. We're looking at renewable energy or fossil fuels. We're looking at least 50 years investment profile. Looking at that. Certainly we need to keep that in mind, and not knowing, being able to know what's going to happen 50 years down the road, well, you need to prepare with options. And the options is a diversified mix of energy sources where you can manage those risks in a certain way. Digitalization we already mentioned, and I think you mentioned a very, very, very important point, particularly for Kazakhstan and for Central Asia, which Gurbul mentioned before, is the critical raw minerals and the role that these critical raw minerals play in the energy transition. The energy transition requires an incredible amount of critical raw minerals with today's technology. Those technologies will evolve, and those needs will change over time. We have seen already in batteries, for example, new technologies are coming up, costs are coming down, etc. That will continue to happen. But here, particularly in Kazakhstan as well, there is a huge opportunity to look at the role of critical raw minerals in supporting that. And having uranium, as was mentioned, and that is the reason as well why nuclear energy has been chosen in this country. But the other critical raw minerals not only gives an opportunity to create value chains, and that is a third aspect around your energy resiliency, is having, trading, but you have as well pieces of those value chains in the energy production of the different type of energies here in this country and in the region overall. And so that is another aspect that I think it's very relevant when it comes to our discussions around here. And I have to commend and I have to highlight the fact that the government of Kazakhstan, as well as the other governments around Central Asia, are starting to seize these opportunities, are starting to see these opportunities. We heard about the ambitions in renewable energy. We're starting from a low base here. We have a neighbor who was much more advanced on that space and has shown it is possible, how is it done with the support of the private sector, and how all of the issues that we raised before, how can be worked out to the benefit of the country. So therefore, it is great that we're actually moving into that direction. I think speed is a very important point, of course, to seize those opportunities as they are becoming, they're real now. And therefore, I think, I very much hope so. And to close my intervention, I think it's been mentioned, regional cooperation is crucial in this region, but with the region, with outside, the other neighboring regions, if you want. And certainly here, a role of the countries to go together, to become more cooperative, to create those opportunities, and to attract the foreign direct investment at scale as it's needed. Regional cooperation is a fundamental element. So these are the four aspects that I would say are conducive to a more, let's say, as you mentioned from the very beginning, to a more a speedier transition and a just transition for this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leguti. It's really I think it's for all of us. You mentioned about science is a systematically oriented program, which is really logical, what you mentioned. And I think we will take into account all the thoughts, because now Kazakhstan is working deeply on the transition period policy. And you're absolutely right. And for the countries like Kazakhstan, it's quite unique when a country starts in Europe and lays till the deeply Asia by bordering with China, which is quite huge territory. And even some part of Kazakhstan, that in Europe. It's western part of Kazakhstan in Europe. And I think it's really important for us. And from another side, it's in Kazakhstan, I mentioned before when we're talking with Mr. Gunul, and that for example, in the region like Astana here, we are experiencing 6 months of winter. And that's also another challenge, not only for renewables, but for the living condition. That's why I mentioned about the heating power. And unfortunately, we cannot get enough and sustainable heating power from renewables still, but I do believe that technology will develop and reach this level when we will start enjoying these new technologies, giving us the heating power from renewables. And thank you again. And of course, we are very close to the end of the session, and I'd like to raise a couple of questions, if I may. The first question I'd like to ask Mr. Hasenov now, and and sorry, but this question is like a question of faith. And the question is easy. It's from your perspective, because you're at the heart of the industry and the national company. And as a national company, you are really deeply down in oil and gas industry. Do you believe hydrocarbons will continue to play a central role in shaping a sustainable energy balance for our country?
Well, my strong answer is yes. I do believe.
Thank you. You saved you answered even maximum shorter than even my question
Yes.
is. Okay, thank you.
Actually,
It's nice. No, no, it's okay.
okay.
It means that you know your business very well. Yeah. Thank you. And before we conclude, I'd like also to raise a last but not least question to Mr. Larden as well. How is ExxonMobil managing the needs for increased energy while also focusing on cutting carbon emissions?
It's a great question. I don't know that I can do that in one word, but I will try to be brief, given I know that we're at the end of the session here. I think President Tokayev laid it out importantly this morning in that growing our supply of energy to meet energy demand while still reducing carbon emissions is a critical problem for the industry to solve. And particularly here in Central Asia, the need for carbon reduction is critically important, as he mentioned this morning. For ExxonMobil, we call that the AND equation, which is meeting society's energy needs while reducing emissions. And for us as a company, looking out through 2050 again, our ambition is to remove or get to net zero in our Scope 1 and Scope 2 operated emissions by that time. It's going to take a range of solutions to get there, but we're investing heavily in areas that we're strategically advantaged in and that have high impact. So carbon capture and storage or low carbon hydrogen being two prominent ones. As we look out over even just the next 5 years, we've got up to $30 billion worth of investment opportunity in that space in particular. But as I said, it is going to take a whole range of solutions to get there. We think for us in particular, we have an advantage in that we have a global scale, we've got access to leading technology, we're collaborating with governments, with industry leaders, with universities to ensure that we have access to the highest impact projects. And while this is the right thing to do environmentally, we hope that it also makes good business sense, and we're targeting returns of about 15% on that $30 billion portfolio. But we're also realistic that the space is continuing to evolve. The policies are still uncertain. Customer demand is still evolving and uncertain. So we're being very thoughtful about how we consider where and when to invest so that we pace the investments in line with the evolving policy and customer demand. When I think about Kazakhstan in particular, the Vice Minister mentioned it earlier, a really ambitious plan to get to net zero by 2060, and we commend the Republic on setting that goal. I think the key underlying factor, as I mentioned earlier, for ongoing oil and gas investment, again, is to set the right policy, transparent, productive, and well understood robust policy so that the industry can make the right investment decisions, which again can be multi-billion dollars over an extended time frame. So I'll leave the response there, hopefully give you a minute or two back, but thank you for the question.
I'd like to thank all of participants today and our distinguished speakers and all people here, participants for this session. And yeah, as a moderator, and that's why we need to close because the time is, thank you. It's almost 5. Yes, but before we close this session, I'd like to deliver a couple of the messages because the key topic of the ASEAN International Forum is middle power. And we know that Kazakhstan is, we are identifying ourselves as a middle power here in the region. And because we are just, as I mentioned before, we're between Europe and Asia first. And we're placed to serve as a bridge between developed and developing markets as well. So that is our location, I mean, geographically. And also we are between traditional energy and renewable innovations. So that's also here. And I think it's this role for Kazakhstan carries both responsibility and opportunity. And today's session has shown that Kazakhstan is embracing both. And I believe that is not a still clear answer and good scenario globally, not only in Kazakhstan, what the transition is still. And we should take into account the location, climate change as well, which is a 1.5 degree scenario, and culture, and infrastructure we mentioned here, and all our investments already done into the oil and gas, which we need to cover. And that's number of the and geopolitical issues, and that's we should take into account. And I hope and I believe that today we just underlined and we shared with our thoughts about what the good and proper scenario can be. But that is just the beginning of this dialogue, and that's why I wish health and prosperity to all of you, and I hope God bless us by the health to see the result of this dialogue one day, and to be the witness of this. And thank you again for participating, and wish you all the best. Thank you.